Okay. Now, now I'm really excited to bring up our guest speaker. This doesn't happen every month. Most of the time, our guest speaker is somebody who isn't a regular attendee of Sunday Assembly. But this week, we're privileged to have one of our own who's also a really awesome person. I know him personally. He's really great to talk to. We're going to bring up Vinnie Kinsella, and he's the founder of the PDX Late Bloomers Club, a social support organization for gay, bi, and trans men who came out later in life. And years before his own coming out, he carved out a niche for himself in Portland's book publishing industry as an editor, a book designer, and a college instructor. Fueled by the belief that visibility opens up doors of change for marginalized people, he is working to launch Eldridge Books, an LGBTQ nonfiction publishing company. And their first book, Eldridge's first book, Fashionably Late, Stories from Gay, Bi, and Trans Men Who Come Out Later in Life, is due out March in 2016. So it's my distinct privilege and pleasure to bring up Vinnie Kinsella.
I sound good on paper. All right, I don't need this yet. So, let's start with a story. So, as Will mentioned, I am the founder of the PDX Late Bloomers Club. Actually, Steve, here, but I will put you out. So I came out of the closet at 34. I know you're thinking, how's that possible? But it's true. And I want to tell a little bit of some of that experience. I think it pertains to today. So coming from a very religious background, 2 weeks before Christmas year that I came out, I had to gather in a room with 14 other people to talk about a very, very pressing matter, me. So if you've never had the experience of sitting in a room and having 14 people decide whether or not you should be allowed to be around them any longer, don't. I don't recommend that experience. And it was one of the experiences that shook me the most in life, having people who weeks before were telling me how much they loved me and how much they enjoyed me, and then all of a sudden they learned a new information about me when I finally came out that went from, you're such a vital part of our community, to, should we even let you be here? So, fast forward to a few months after dealing with all of that, dealing with the stress of that and the pain of that, and then the repercussions of having a life really entrenched in the church and having the rumors go back and forth. I had a weird thing start to happen. I started having people that I hadn't talked to in years come to me secretly. They would, hit me up on Facebook and say, I'd love to have coffee. And my mindset at the time was, I have a bunch of church people telling me to repent and come back, but okay, whatever. Which is what I thought was going to happen. But what happened is I'd have these people come to me and they'd say, I heard about what happened to you. I heard about the things that happened, and I just want you to know personally, I think that was wrong. And personally, I don't agree with the church. I personally think that it's, I don't see how being gay is sinful. It's not a choice. And this happened a lot, person after person. And after a while, I got conflicted about this, because part of me went, well, I love the sympathy that I'm getting, but where were you when I was getting beat up? And that's when I kind of realized the difference between somebody who is an LGBT, and I'm going to define some of these letters and stuff here in a minute, sympathizer versus somebody who is an ally. Because in my personal experience, like I said, felt very much like I got beat up, and the people in the crowd who were watching kind of went, that's not cool, and didn't do anything. Which is not helpful to the person being beat up. And I also understand that a lot of that was fear, that if you are in that environment and you speak out, then you run the risk of being beat up. We've all been in junior high. We know how that works. We've all seen that. So, and I bring that story up because I really want to talk about allies today. When Corinne asked me to speak, I first thought, oh my gosh, I have so much to say, and I have how long? And thinking about what would work best for this environment, this community. So before I delve into that, I'm going to define some things. So you see LGBT+. So I'm assuming everyone knows what those letters are, but I'll just go through those real quick. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, those are sexual identities, so it has to do with who you are attracted to. T stands for trans. It has more to do with who you feel you are inside as far as gender identity goes. And the plus, which you often see has to do with, there's actually a long line of letters. Sometimes you will see this acronym be LGBTQIAA. Sometimes you see LGBTQIAAP. There's others. And this is actually quite frustrating, even for people who live with one of those acronyms, to figure out which acronym we want to use. I'm going with this because I think it's the most easy to understand. LGBT is pretty common, and the plus is sort of like other things. Another terminology you will hear me use is I'll often just refer to it as the queer community. But just to give you a warning, that's actually a little bit of a potentially divisive term. Younger generations, millennials, have no problem with that. Every event they have, every dance they do, it's a queer dance, it's a whatever. Older people who are beat up and called that have a little bit of a challenge with that. So, but I use those interchangeably. I'm responsible for the slides. Hello. But I was going back to the LGBTQIAA. One of the A's you see in there sometimes, it stands for ally. And I want to talk first about what that is, and I'm going to go from there. So, according to Merriam-Webster, it's over here, an ally is a person or a group that gives help to another person or group. Pretty straightforward. Most of us, though, understand the term in the context of war, and it's a country that supports and helps another country in a war. So, in the U.S., we have allies. We have many countries that if we are going to war, they're going to jump right in and fight with us. So our battles are their battles are our battles. That's more the understanding of an ally. And that's actually truer to the concept of allies when we're talking about the LGBT community. So more terms I'm going to define here. So in the context of the LGBT community, an ally is a straight, cisgendered person who gives tangible support to LGBT people. Okay, y'all probably know what straight means, but some of you probably went, cisgender, what's that? So we've already talked a little bit about transgender, and I'm sure thanks to Caitlyn Jenner, this recently everyone in America kind of has a working definition for at least what that means. But, yeah, and I know it's a very loose definition, but cisgender is, for those who don't identify as trans, that's the basic way of saying, I was born a male, I identify as male, it's cisgender. So that's the general terminology. So in that context, you are looking at it, you're outside of the community and you're offering support to the community in a tangible way. Now before we get too far though, I want to make a point that those who are here in this room who identify as one of the letters of the acronym, and I just call it the acronym, you're not off the hook. So you can be gay and not be an ally to trans people. You can be lesbian and not be an ally to bi people. You still have to make the choice, because being an ally has everything to do with recognizing that you're not part of another group, but that you want to offer support to that group and you want to fight the battles that that group faces with them. So I say that because I don't want people in this room who are not outside of that to kind of check out and go, oh, this isn't for me. It's for you. You have to make that choice. That's one of the things that threw me for a loop when I came out. I often say that I came out and I was wearing rainbow-colored glasses because I came out and I expected to walk into this community where everybody loves everybody else and everybody supports everybody else because they've all been picked on and they're all minorities and they all understand. And the first time I heard a gay man say, oh, I hate lesbians, I was like, what? All of them? Every last one of them? Like, and it baffled my mind how somebody who was picked on and beat on growing up for just being who they are could just write off a whole other group of people who had that shared experience. So fortunately I don't hear that very often, but that is a reality. It could be, it's not just people outside of the larger acronym, it's even people within. So an ally is not the same as an advocate. I'm gonna stop here for a second. So this is part of the reason I wanted to talk about this, is that a lot of people who are allies don't actually know that they are, because a lot of people confuse being an ally with being an advocate. And I'm going to tell a story for one of my writers that I work with, who's become a friend, and we had coffee the other day, and she is a lifelong supporter of gay rights. She's got multiple gay friends. Her book launch, she donated a portion of all of her books about real estate to gay marriage. And so her whole life, she has been supporting gay rights. She's kind of she's a fun kind of crazy. She was going to protest a conversion therapy, religious conversion therapy retreat, and instead of protesting it, she decided it would probably be good for her to know what it's all about, so she just signed up and went as a straight woman to get a better understanding of what these people's minds were about. So she looks at me and she says, well, I don't think I'm an ally. I'm like, what do you mean you don't think you're an ally? She's like, well, I mean, I love all the gay people in my life. I'm there for them. If they need me, they call me. Whatever they need me to go and rally with them, I'm there, but I don't think that makes me an ally. Like, that you basically just defined ally. But in her mind, what she was saying is, I'm not an advocate. She doesn't go out, she doesn't actively do the work of educating, she doesn't actively go out and do the work of trying to change policy and write policy. That's a little bit more, it's, you know, and there's some overlap between the two. So a lot of people, when they hear ally, they think advocate. They think they should be out there writing policy and giving talks in front of people about what that means and educating. Being an ally might involve a little bit of advocacy. Maybe you have to do some education in your own family or whatnot, but they're not the same. And I say that because I think that is a good, you know, not everybody is going to be an advocate, but everybody can be an ally. And the way I like to look at it is that an advocate kind of provides the rallying points for the allies. So we have organizations that are saying, this is what's important to us, this is where we need help, this is what we're trying to change, and then the allies come in and say, cool, what do you need us to do? How do we help support this goal? And so I want to make that distinction because I think it's important. I think a lot of people don't understand that that being an ally doesn't mean you have to always be up front doing a bunch of things. It just means that when you're called to duty, you do it. So, all right. So that's my definitions. I wanted to put this in big letters. So an ally is not a passive thing. So going back to my story, multiple people coming to me in my life and saying, I feel really, really, really bad about what you did, but I wasn't really willing to do anything to stop your suffering and end your suffering. So an ally, you can't call yourself an ally. This is my opinion, you can argue with me, but I'm right. You can't call yourself an ally if you only want to be passive, and that goes for everybody. I can't call myself an ally to feminists if I'm not willing to stick my neck out there when the females in my life are being hurt just because they're females, and that happens a lot. So, and it's not a passive stance. It will require you to take action. I guess that's what I'm saying. But it'll cost you. It'll potentially cost you. So back again to those examples, the people in my life who didn't want to speak up, they didn't want to do it because they were afraid of the repercussions from the community. They were afraid of also being shunned and being hurt. And in my life, and I'm going to talk about it, in my life, it was some of the people who stuck their necks out, put their necks on the line, that helped me the most. I tell the story of one of my coworkers who, she's Presbyterian, Presbyterian, asking another coworker about it. But, you know, she's part, you know, she is mother of three, she is nothing other than a straight woman with lots of children to prove that, you know, I should somebody for saying that, oh my gosh. Actually, no, she'd laugh. But during, you know, in her denomination, they were debating whether or not they should have gay clergy. And she started getting on Facebook and vocalizing her support for that and saying, I think we should. She had no reason to. You know, she's not gay, no one in her family is gay, no one in her life is gay, but she knew it was wrong to discriminate on that, and she got a lot of flack. She had people unfriend her, well, which is a big deal in our society, I guess, you know, the ultimate shunning. And she got a lot of flack, but she stuck her neck out on the line for something that she believed in, for people she believed in, and that was actually one of the instrumental moments in my life. To this day, she says that she turned to be gay because of her Facebook post. But I do want to give some examples before I get too far into just definitions. Don't kill me. So my BFF April, who's sitting over there now. So this is another early example in my life of somebody who took an action as an ally. So about the time that I was really struggling at the height of my cognitive dissonance over who I was versus what I believed, I think that's the best way of doing that, saying that, April was given an opportunity to work for an organization, a religious organization, part-time. She needed the job, she needed the money, but signing the contract meant she could no longer vocally support gay rights. She could no longer vocally support gay marriage. And she blogged about it extensively, or wrote a blog post, I guess that's about it. And that conflict she had between, I need this job, I need this money, but I have to silence myself. I have to not support this. And she said, well, I could just not say anything, maybe leave my bumper stickers on my car, my equality sign, but she said, no, I can't take this job, because taking this job would require me to turn my back on people I believe in, turn my back on people I love. And she passed up, it cost her something, it cost her a job. So that, to me, that's a great example of being an ally. Right there is Peggy. Some examples that have sort of reached in mainstream media. So Frank Schaefer is a Methodist minister whose son wanted him to perform his marriage to another man, same-sex marriage. The church said, "Oh, you can't do that. That goes against what we believe." And he said, "I dare you to stop me. This is my son. I support him. I'm going to perform it." He got defrocked. He lost his job. He did eventually reinstate him, but here was a man who put his job on the line, who put his reputation on the line, because he said, it's more important to me to support my son than to fall in line with church doctrine that I think is just outdated and wrong. And caused a lot of brouhaha in his denomination. And I think also caused a lot of change for the positive and the better. So recently, the state of Indiana decided they wanted to pass a Religious Freedom Act. I don't know why we started with that phrase. Immediately the backlash from the business community, from entertainers who were scheduled to be in Indiana said, no, in fact, if you do this, we're pulling our support. We're leaving you. We're not giving you our business. I just had to put Nick off with that. Who doesn't like him? He was one of those performers. They basically said no. So that's another example of people at a larger scale saying, no, we're not going to sit back and let you pick on members of your own state just because you don't like them, just because you think they're icky. That's really what it boils down to. That's how I interpret Religious Freedom Acts. We don't like icky people. Well, we don't like you either. So this one, I almost can't cry without this one. So recently, this made headlines. Jacob Listensky, high school junior, best friend is gay. His best friend's gay best friend. He's on Twitter, because that's what the kids do these days. And he tweets, kind of sad I don't have a date for the prom, because, he's gay. He probably doesn't have very many options. So his best friend says, I want to take him to the prom. And so he publicly asked his best friend in school to be his date for the prom. And I love this. It's just so high school texting. So you're hella gay, I'm hella straight, but you're like my brother, so be my date. I dare you to watch the interview on Ellen without crying. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I can't imagine, I just can't imagine being in high school and having a friend do that. That's immense. And, he got a lot of support. I'm sure he got some flack too for that, but that's an ally right there. This is one of my other favorite examples. Niels, I think that's how you say it, German fella in a very small German community whose son prefers to wear dresses and skirts. And so he's in a small town, small community, and he didn't want his son to feel awkward or weird from having people look at him like, why is your son wearing a dress? So instead of trying to correct his son and get him to wear boy clothes, he said, I want my son to feel normal, so I'm going to start wearing dresses when I go out in public with him. I'm going to start going out and supporting him. That's an extreme but beautiful example. And here's this man who has himself, no personal desire to wear dresses and paint his nails, but he sees it in his son. I want my son to know that this is okay, and shouldn't be shut down. So I'm going to stand with him on that. I think it's one of those beautiful, beautiful stories we've seen in a while. Another one that's recently made the headlines, the Whittington family. So their son Ryland, who is transgender, he was born. Ryland was, for all intents and purposes, a girl, and then of course Ryland reaches that age where he can assert himself and is asserting himself, saying, "No, I'm a boy. I'm a boy. I'm not a girl. I don't want to wear this outfit. I don't want to, I don't want to. I want to have my hair long. I don't want to wear girl clothes." And as parents, they decided to do the opposite of what a lot of people who have transgender children do. They said, "You know what? We're going to listen to our kid, and when our kid says that this is who I am, we're going to respect that, and we're going to allow our son to do do a social transition." And so, by the time he gets into school, he was a boy. He was dressed as a boy. He was who he felt and said he was, and his parents supported that. And they're actually, they've kind of gone on to be true advocates now. They're actually part of a documentary about raising transgender children, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But it just started with them finally looking at their kid and saying, we're going to listen to you. We're going to listen to you, and instead of trying to push you into something you're not, we're going to let you be who you are. And we're going to tell everybody else to get out of our lives if they don't like it. It's a lovely family, and they're disgustingly cute family. So I'm going to pause for stats because I was told this is a great group to have some stats in. Because before I get to my next point, I'll back it up. I could go on the stats for a long time. I'm trying to be conscious of time. So there are approximately 9 million people in the U.S. that identify as LGBT, somewhere in there. These stats are a little hard to come by. These are people who identify. So people on a census are going to check a box to say, yes, I'm gay. So this stat does not include people who are still closeted, people who maybe don't quite know what they are, so they don't identify. And if they factor in people who don't publicly identify, a lot of estimates assume it probably almost double that amount. But at least 1 out of every 20 people identifies. So think about how many people in your life, every 1 out of 20 probably identifies on some level. And if you live in this city, it's more likely to happen. So Portland has the second highest LGBT population in the country percentage-wise. So the first is San Francisco, and then we are second percentage-wise. If we're going sheer numbers, New York beats everybody, but the percentage of the population is less. So you are definitely going to run into some lesbians, gays, transgenders, bisexuals working in Portland. And if you haven't yet, where do you live in Portland? Though this one I hate. 75 countries still have anti-sodomy laws. So in 75 countries, it is still illegal to just be gay. And if you're caught being gay, you can go to jail. Some of them, or transgender or anything, you can go to jail. And in some, you can be executed still. 2015, still happening. 12 states still have that. They have been unconstitutional in the United States since 2003. There are still 12 states who refuse to take their anti-sodomy laws off the books. So, yes, we live in America, yes, we've advanced, but still, it's here. Oh, I didn't get the full progression here. So 5% of the general population has reported attempting suicide. That's a statistic, period. But that number jumps to 20% for sexual minorities, so gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and it jumps to 41% for gender minorities. So 41% of all people who identify as trans or some sort of gender nonconformist have attempted suicide. So think about that. It's almost half. And with my trans friends, I realized that's true. Probably about half of them have said they've contemplated or tried suicide at one point. That scares me. Nearly 19% of all trans women have been incarcerated, mostly just because they get picked on and they get arrested. There's too many stories of a trans woman going to a bar, getting beat up, and then them getting arrested rather than the people who beat them up. I'm so sick of those stories. And even scarier, of those who have been incarcerated, 42% were racial minorities. So sadly, one of the worst things you can be in our culture as far as statistically is a black trans woman. They have it hard, and these are not happy statistics, I'm sorry. And I bring them out and I can do more because now I want to kind of make the case of this is why we need allies, because they still need some help. So some few steps to being an ally. recognize your own values and where they align with the values of the LGBT people in your life. So in this room, live often, wonder more, do good. Probably have a value of doing good. Doing good is a pretty good value to align with other people. Recognize who you are and where you will align, because you're not going to align with somebody until you recognize some shared values. And I'm kind of hurrying because I want to get some of the other stuff here. This is important. This is probably the most crucial part of my talk. If you want to be identified as an ally, if you want to be an ally, you have to come out as an ally. What I mean by that is you need the people in your life to know that you are with them. So I'm gonna give you one of the harsh realities of being gay, bisexual, transgender. We live our whole lives, and it's so automatic, sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. In every new social environment we go in, the question we're asking in the back of our heads is this a safe place for me? So we're listening to every conversation when we walk into a room. Are these people are they homophobic? Are they transphobic? Are they going to beat me up? Are they going to say mean things? We are constantly listening. Who in this room is going to be a friend? Who's going to be a foe? Even in Portland. So I go to a new coffee shop, I start listening when somebody says something about their gay friend. I think, what are they saying about their gay friend? And fortunately, I live in a city where most of the time it's positive and uplifting. But I don't know who's an ally unless you as an ally say or do something to prove that. So there's so many simple ways to do that. Putting an equality sticker on your car is a great way to do that. Your neighbor goes, cool, somebody I can trust, somebody I know. Putting a rainbow flag up is a way to do that. Flat out saying, I'm an ally, wearing a shirt that says, straight but not narrow, whatever the new allied shirts say these days. There's allied t-shirts, buy some, you'll find some at Pride. But come out, let the people in your life know that you are there to support them. Don't come to them in secret 5 months after they beat up and say, you sympathize with them. Please. Okay. Your responsibilities, educating yourself. So one of the realities of privilege is that when you are in the privileged community, you don't have to know about what's going on in the community that's not privileged. So I'm going to take it out of the context of sexuality and gender for a minute. So think about race. As a white male, I just don't know the realities of being a black male or a black female in America unless I educate myself. I take a lot of things for granted because I don't have to experience what some of my black friends have talked about, walking down the street and having everybody suspicious of them. People, I end up wondering if they're going to steal something from them. I don't experience that, but I have to educate myself to find out what people who are sort of in the minority status, who are not in that privileged group, know, because I can't be an ally if I don't educate myself. And I also say educate yourself because not every LGBT person wants to spend forever educating everybody in their lives. It's sort of, sometimes we just want to do our job and want to do our job and teach you how to talk to us. So there are books, there are resources, and there are people who are willing to educate. So I'm willing to educate. If somebody wants to, if you want to know questions about the gay community, I'll give you my answer. It may not be representative of everybody else, but I will, be willing to do that. Listen. So this is another thing. I love what my friend said. She said, I just do whatever my friends tell me they need me to do. See, that's the important part of being an ally. So a lot of times we're looking for a kind of a fix all, and I think part of the reason that gay marriage marriage equality has really taken off is because it's finally a big rallying point that people who are allies go, cool, something I can do. But you really need to listen to the people in your life to find out where they need you to be an ally. So it could be maybe you have a lesbian daughter who says to you, I don't like the way when Uncle whatever comes over, I don't like the things that he says, they hurt me. Can you say something to him? Listen and respond to that. Maybe you are a manager and you have trans employees and your company has passed one of those ridiculous bathroom rules about going to, your birth gender's bathroom, which is just horrible. Listening and saying, and as a manager, I need to oppose that. I need to say something on behalf of these people. So it's listening to what they want and then taking action that's yours to take. So, I can't go to your lesbian daughter's uncle and say, knock it off. That's not my action to take. It's your action to take. There's a lot of, I don't have a child who wants to, dress in clothing that doesn't fit the gender stereotypes. So that's your child, that's your action to take on their behalf. So, all right. If you didn't see the rainbow flag coming based on the way that slides were changing, you're either colorblind or you just totally missed it. I don't know. So, I have time, Brent.
5 minutes.
Okay. So I did ask last time for people to submit questions. I wanted to wait until I was going to work them in, but I decided to wait till the end because I think a lot of it was covered in the talk, and I might talk back. These are just a few of the questions that I got that I want to go over. If I didn't answer your question, I'm willing to answer it as best I can later. So the first, some people say that allowing LGBT couples to have civil unions should be enough as opposed to allowing them to marry. What are your thoughts about that? My thoughts about it right there. I'm sorry, but when I hear that, this is all I can see in my mind. It just seems like Jim Crow laws based on sexuality. It's nothing other than we want something separate but equal for these people. No. Okay. Why do you think, oh Josh, I could do a whole talk on this. Why do you think men in particular are so afraid of being seen as gay? Everybody say it with me now. Misogyny! So, I'm gonna talk to the men in this room. How many of you, at any point in your life, had somebody say to you, be a big boy, be a man. Boys don't do that. Don't be so girly. So our society socializes men in such a way at a young age to give the idea that if you are acting outside of the bounds of masculinity, you are giving away your power, you are giving away who you are, and it's in so much of the language we don't even think about it. You know, don't be a sissy. We have children, I won't say some of the other things that we say. You know, you throw like a girl, don't be a girl, don't act like a girl. Why are you acting like a girl? It's ingrained in small boys' minds that being a girl is somehow bad and being a girl is somehow worse. So if you're taught that from a young age, that being non-masculine is somehow giving up your power and somehow giving up your privilege, that's going to translate when you get older to a whole bunch of ugly in your life. And when most men I know who struggle with this, they see gay men particularly as effeminate, they see them as other, and they see that, and they don't want to be associated with that for fear of a loss of power. And I would like to say that that's not true of gay men as well, but it's also true in the gay community. You see it a lot. I mean, every gay man who's ever gone on a dating profile and seen no femmes in big letters knows what I'm talking about. It's something that just men in general have to deal with. It's the kind of the victims of misogyny we don't often hear about. Men are also victims of it. Just, the whole thing's ugly. Make it go away. No more. I love this one. I assume someone is straight, but turns out they're not. I resolve not to make this mistake again, then I do. How can I reverse 60 years of social conditioning and remember that someone I'm meeting might be gay? You already are. I don't know who asked this question. The fact that you bring an awareness, you're already doing what you need to be doing. So, in reality, you know, 1 out of every 20 people identifies as LGBT, which means 19 out of every 20 don't. I'm going to assume everybody I meet is straight. I'm going to secretly wish many of them not. But I'm going to assume many of them are. And so it's not, you know, you're not wrong for making the assumption. You know, there's that game of, you know, is this person gay or not? You're not wrong for making the assumption. And what matters is how you handle it when that other person says to you, well, actually I'm gay. That's really the important part, because that's just, again, that's another reality of being gay. Unless I do something to come out, then the people are probably going to assume that. So, if I'm wearing this out in public, people are probably going to assume I'm gay. My new favorite way to come out is when the guy's like, what's your favorite sport? I love to tell him it's drag racing. Let that sink in. Some of you don't know what I'm talking about. All right. This is a good one. I'm just going to cover this one real quick. Could you cover the difference between being heterosexual, being in a heterosexual relationship? I identify as pansexual. I'll do the first part. That's easy. Being heterosexual is obviously you are one gender, you are attracted to the other gender. I'm a male, I'm exclusively attracted to female. I think y'all know that. Being in a heterosexual relationship, our governor is a great example. Kate Brown identifies as bisexual, attracted to both men and women, but she's married to a man. So her relationship is a heterosexual relationship. But she, herself, she's bisexual. So that's that. So I also put a big step because I knew this would happen. How many of you went, Pansexual, what's that? A lot probably did. So this is an important thing about going back to the listening. So, like I said, that acronym can get really, really long. Part of listening is letting people give you their identities. So I don't really have a lot of time to go into the differences between bisexuality and pansexuality, but there are definitely people who identify as those things, and there are nuances to that. There's a reason why somebody would say, I'm pansexual. Usually a person who identifies as pansexual sees themselves as attracted to everybody, regardless of their gender identity, regardless of whether or not they are cisgendered or transgendered. They just don't feel that. A lot of bisexuals still feel more inclined to feel attracted to people who are traditionally male and traditionally female in the way they present. That's a very nuanced definition. But I just want to say the importance of letting people define who they are. And I live in this community, and I still have people come up to me and say, well, I identify as this, and I go, what? I don't even know what that means. Great, a new thing for me to go look up on the internet when I get home. I guess that was my last question. No, there was one more. Where'd it go? Oh, I'm going to answer it anyway, even though it's up there. Somebody asked, and it was a beautiful question, how they can best support their adult gay son. And my answer to that question is going to sound flippant, but it's not. It's I don't know. And the reason I say that is I want to go back to my point about listening. So I don't know, but your son does. And what is support for one person is not support for another person. And so a big part of being an ally is finding that out and just saying to that person, first, you have to come out, they have to know you're an ally, so they have to know that you want to be supportive of them. And then you have to find that out for them, because it could be many, many things. It could be something personally. For some gay people, marriage equality is not the thing. It's not the thing that they are most, that's going to make them feel most loved and supported. You're supportive of that. It could be something as simple as you stopping referring to their partner as their friend. It could be all sorts of different things. So there were other questions submitted. I didn't answer them for a couple of reasons. One time, and I'm way over, sorry. And then also, the ones that I didn't answer were ones that I thought, this is a really specific situation. So if you submitted a question, I didn't answer it, come find me after. I'd love to talk. And the woman who, I'm assuming, I think was a mother, said they wanted to support their adult gay son. I'd actually have a personal conversation to hear about the family dynamics and see if I can offer something that might be specific to that. But because, like I said, the answer is I don't know on that one. I guess I'm done.